All right, everybody, welcome back to the Street Parking Podcast. We have another episode with one of our incredible members who is here to film a vault workout with us this week. Her name is Silver Saporito. Did I say that right?
You did, yeah.
I don't even know how to describe Silver because there's so many different things that she has going on in her life and also ways that you might recognize her in the street parking community. But you might recognize her most for, if you follow her on Instagram, how she posts almost everything she eats all the time with photos of her food, which is actually really helpful, I think, to a lot of people. And it makes sense because one of Silver's occupations is that she is a functional nutritionist, but also a psychotherapist, a mom of two, and has been a street parking member for a very long time since December of 2018.
Yes.
So all of those things we're going to talk about and things that I found out about you just while we were sitting here.
Cool.
Having all the cameras and everything set up. So welcome.
Thank you.
And so first let's talk a little bit about how you found street parking and what you were doing before.
Okay.
Fitness wise. And then I really want to get into what you do with your therapy stuff and the nutrition stuff, because I think both of those have such huge ties to what we do and our goals for our members. So yeah, what were you doing before street parking?
So fitness wise, I found CrossFit style training in 2014-ish. Yeah, 2014. At a CrossFit box near where I lived, fell in love with it. I think a friend told me about CrossFit.
What were you doing before that?
Before that, just a gym member.
Okay.
Elliptical.
One of the things that you told me before we started the podcast, or that you had answered in our questions before you came here, was that you were not an athlete though, growing up.
No. I mean, I played rec soccer as a kid and stuff, but no, I didn't play sports
you didn't
competitively.
Identify as an athlete
No.
When you went into adulthood.
No.
Okay.
No, didn't play anything in college or anything like that.
Okay.
No, not an athlete.
Same, actually.
Yeah.
So you, so you were just doing the regular Globo Gym thing.
Yeah. Some fitness classes, Zumba, elliptical.
Okay.
A friend told me about CrossFit and changed my life.
Wow. You found it and it was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun.
This is fun.
And started doing it.
And then how I found street parking is one of my coaches at my CrossFit told me about you, to follow you on Instagram, because there was this CrossFit competitor, that was pregnant and I was pregnant. And she's like, I think you and her are like very similar. You should follow her. You're going to love to follow her. I followed you. So I guess this is right when you started street parking.
Because we started street parking 6 days before I found out I was pregnant.
Okay, right.
The Instagram. We started the Instagram account and then 6 days later or something like that, I found out I was pregnant with Knox.
Yeah. So following you, we were weeks apart because my daughter was then born August 2nd.
Yeah, a day after Knox. So was your daughter late or early?
She was early. So it was due the 14th.
Knox was 3 days late.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, so we were very close. Yeah. So followed you for a while. I did some street parking workouts on my own. And then, but I was still in my CrossFit box.
Right.
And then we found a house. We were house hunting, me and my husband, after the baby was born. And I knew I needed to just join street parking, and I wanted to work out from home, and I wanted to have a garage gym. And
did you move far away from your box, or were you still kind of in that general area?
Definitely in that general area. Okay. I just knew it would be better for me. Yes.
Yeah.
It'd be so much better to be at home and have that.
Okay.
And so then that was 2018 is when I signed up officially.
Awesome. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your schedule now, what you do for your fitness now, and then we'll dive into some of the other really cool stuff about you. So, one workout a day, two workouts a day.
One workout
What's
a
your
day.
schedule like?
One workout a day, usually the daily workout, not necessarily the one that's listed, but a daily workout. I figure out kind of what my time looks like, what I'm in the mood for. If I have time, maybe once a week, I will throw in one of the accessory or extra programs. I'm just doing the Ali Imam now, once a week, which I love. I've done the Power 30 in the past. I love that too. Those are good. But typically is a one.
And what kind of setup do you have at home?
So my garage gym. I have.
What kind of equipment do you have going on?
I have a rack with barbell, dumbbells, sandbag, kettlebells.
Do you have a squat rack and everything? Yeah, because you also one of the things that you told me is you've, for the last 4 years,
Yes.
done the 20 rep squat.
Yes.
And you've worked your way up to 170 pounds all 4 years in a row.
Every 4 years.
And
every
one
year,
of those times you were pretty postpartum, right?
Yeah.
Because you have a 2.5-year-old now also.
Yes. Yeah. So every year, so that was 2019, 20, 21, and 22. So I'll do it again this year. And I hit 170 for each year,
That's
right?
so
And
awesome.
very different phases of life.
You're not a large person.
Yeah.
That's very strong. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What is it about that program that you keep repeating it? Like, what is it doing for you, or what is it? Why do you keep wanting to repeat it every year?
The first year that I did it, I had no idea where I was going to go with it. I was just going to try, see how far I can get, And then when I hit 170 and it took a good almost 2 minutes, I said, that's it. I'm not doing 175. I'm happy with that. Yeah. And then the next year, I guess, was when I was postpartum. So I was like, let's just see how it goes for the rehab. Right.
Yeah.
And then I've just wanted to do it ever since, to see if I can keep it up. Not like, and knowing if I can't, I can't. If for some reason this year I can't hit 170, like, that's okay. And I also like that it's once a week. Like, it's not
very
that
short. Until it starts to get heavy, it goes by really fast.
Yeah, it's fine. I can squat 20 times this week. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. When you do that, one of the questions that we get a lot about that program. So for those of you, if you're listening to this and you're not a street parking member, or if you've never looked at that program, it's starting really light. Like, I know when I've been postpartum and I've done it, it's literally the empty barbell that I start with.
Yep.
And you just do 20 unbroken back squats.
Yes.
And then the next time you come back, and you might add 5 pounds, and then you can make 5 or 10 pound jumps. We typically wouldn't suggest that you make bigger than 10 pound jumps.
Right.
And you just keep going. So it's once a week, always
That's
20
it.
Unbroken, 1 set, and that's it for the workout. And you see how far you can make it. And we say to keep going until your form starts to really break down, or it takes longer than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Or where, like you're saying, it's just like, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. Like, that's okay. Yeah. Maybe I could hit 175, but maybe not. So I don't really want to try.
And so it's a great program. A lot of people really love it because it is so simple, but it just, the overall strength is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's really manageable because you're like, well, it's only 5 more pounds.
Yeah.
It's only 5
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Like
the question I was going to ask is, when you do that program, do you do it with a daily workout, or is that ever on its own?
Usually it's with, especially in the beginning when it's like 55 pounds or something. But yes, usually I do it. In the past, I do it Mondays. It just works out that way. Or in the beginning of the week. And then depending on what the daily is, maybe I'll do the daily after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Great. 1 workout a day. How many days a week?
5.
And you said 9:15 a.m. is your favorite?
I would love to, get the kids to school and daycare, finish my coffee, have a little peace and quiet, and then do the workout. It doesn't work out all the time that way with my schedule, but ideally it would be like 9:15, 10 o'clock.
And you work from home?
I work from home.
How long have you worked from home for?
I've worked from home since 2020, since the pandemic.
So you got shifted to home with the pandemic.
Yeah.
And how was that shift for you? Because sometimes I struggle, because I have a really nice home office and I could work from home, and I have a nice office here. But for some reason, 70% of the time I end up at a Starbucks.
Yeah.
Because when I'm home, it can be tough, because there's like, well, let me just like throw in this load of laundry really quick, or let me take the dog for a walk.
Yeah.
Like, he's getting fussy, and so it's hard to transition between work, fitness, mom, when it's all in the same location.
It's true.
So how was that for you, with still trying to manage all of that? And what have you found are some tools that are helpful for you to like compartmentalize those different roles of your life?
I think for me, it's like timing.
Okay.
So, the transition was very difficult because I had a newborn in March of 2020. So when the pandemic hit, I gave birth.
your second is only
Yes.
like 3 months older than Banner.
Yes.
So our kids are exactly the same age.
So when you announced that you were pregnant with Banner, I was like, oh my God, again.
Was your second born before the craziness,
2
or
weeks
right
after shutdown? So everyone got locked.
Oh my gosh,
and
it was
then
so crazy.
Scary time.
Yes. That was the worst. I mean,
yeah.
Anyway, continue.
So that transition was hard on its own, because then I was home with a newborn, and then obviously my 2.5 daughter at the time was 2.5, so she was home from daycare with us, my husband and I.
And your husband was home also?
And he works from home too.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
because
he's
that's
always
another
worked from
distraction.
home. Yeah.
Like even though you love this person so much, it's
we're
like,
all home.
they'll come in and want to tell
Yeah.
you about a call that they just had. And you're just like, but I was like literally in the middle of doing something.
So it was hard. But I think now in terms of like managing that is, okay, at this time is work time and I will be in the office. Also, I'm a therapist. So I can't be distracted during sessions, right? It's chunks of hours of time that I'm working with a client. But when it's paperwork time or when it's that can get distracting, but also kind of helpful. I do enjoy being able to throw in the load of laundry or get dinner started while also doing something else instead of being at the office and then like having to commute home so there's pros and cons.
Okay. Yeah. So typically you'll get your kids to their places.
Yeah.
And then you'll come home and immediately go into your fitness?
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Okay.
That happens probably once or twice a week.
Oh, okay. So 30% of the time.
Yeah. But ideally that'd be great.
What happens the rest of the time?
Sometimes I'll have early morning clients. So I might have a client at 9 or 10.
Okay.
So the second choice of a workout time would be like 11:30.
Okay.
Feels good. Anything after that is terrible for me.
How often do you have to work out when your kids are home with you?
Weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. And if they're home, like off of school or daycare, if they're home. Okay. Yeah. But Saturdays and Sundays.
It's President's Day. So
they would be home
with your husband.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. Is your husband into fitness?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Does he do street parking or something else?
He does street parking and he also does other stuff.
But he works out in your garage gym also?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever work out together?
We used to a lot. And then I don't know if he really enjoys working out with me as much anymore. He'll work out for me like for my birthday or anniversary.
But it can be like, it's a good alone time thing
it
too.
Is. And I really like it.
That.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we won't give him a hard time about it. Let's talk about these food posts.
Okay.
What's up with the food posts? When did you start doing that? And why what's your motivation there?
Okay. I don't even know.
First of all, what's your Instagram account?
So Snack Squat Smile.
Snack Squat Smile. If you guys want to go look at it while you're listening to this and go see all the food.
It's very basic food.
I think that's great. Basic. So yeah, when did it start and why do you do it? And why are you still doing it?
I can't remember when it started, to be honest. I want to say maybe, what year is it? 23, maybe 2019.
Okay.
At some point. I don't know.
Okay.
And I think it was from following other street parking members who were posting their template meals at the time. And I always found it so helpful. And so I just started doing it for my own accountability. That was all that it was. Just like, okay, this is helping me.
It's like a log.
Yeah, it's a log.
But it's easier because you just take a picture.
Just take a picture. And then so many people started replying, like, this is so helpful. Thank you for doing this. This is so eye-opening. Like, it's so simple. Like, your meals look so good, but they're so straightforward. Like, I don't really like to cook.
Isn't that interesting? You're a nutritionist that doesn't
really like to cook. No, I don't. So that's why I still do it.
How often do you do it? Like pretty much every day?
4 to 5 days a week.
And is it meals and snacks and everything? Is it like a slider post?
It's a story post. It's just on my stories. It's just on my stories. Okay. Yeah. It's just on my stories. I'll usually during the week. The weekends I won't really post it. But
if you have something that's not quote unquote healthy, like if you have pizza or do you post that too?
Yeah.
Okay, that's I think super helpful.
Yeah.
To see how often it happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because if you skipped those,
that's not fair.
No,
that's not real.
And it's not helpful. I think it's helpful for people to see like, okay, I always look at all of Silver's food and I notice like whatever it is, 3 times a week.
Right.
It's something.
Right.
It's a burger. It's a pizza.
Yeah.
I know like if I did that, it would be, I'm pretty religious and boring with my food too. And I don't like to cook. Luckily, Julian does. Mm-hmm. But you would see French toast once a week. Pizza, we don't really do pizza as much anymore. French toast once a week, you would see a burger and sweet potato fries once a week. Yeah. For sure. Like we have our set days for those things. And then every once in a while you would see like some pizza or something. Yeah. But I think it's helpful, like you're saying, for people to see the meals, but then also to see the meals that aren't those things.
Definitely having like the peanut butter cup, right?
So that people don't think like, oh, well, it's all that all the time.
Right.
So, okay. And what are your like go-tos? Like how repetitive are they? Do you meal prep?
They're super repetitive. So that's also why I'm like, why am I still posting the same freaking meal again?
Isn't it interesting though? Because people are still finding it so helpful.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the same meal, but maybe something's different, right? So maybe it's chicken thighs, rice, broccoli, and avocado. But then the next day it's instead of avocado, it's cashews or like whatever, you know? So it changes it up. And I think that's also very helpful. People have told me it's helpful. Like, oh yeah, I can just mix one different ingredient and the entire meal is changed, or use a different seasoning. And like, it's so easy, but doable.
Yeah. So you're a functional nutritionist and a therapist, which I think go hand in hand so much because, you know, one of the things I told Molly when we hired her, because we had street parking before we had any nutrition element to it. And then I wanted to bring Molly on for nutrition. And part of the reason was it's like, it's really hard to work with people in nutrition because it's more feelings than actually like recipes.
Behavior. Right.
And which I totally understand.
Yeah.
And she's just way better at that than I am. So I think you were a therapist first and then you got into the...
Yes. I've been a therapist for 8 or 9 years now. The nutritional therapy component, about 3 or 4 years.
I think that makes total sense.
Yeah. And I do a lot of like food mood analyzation, right? So like if a client's struggling with anxiety or depression and we take a look at it, well, what's this food diary look like? What are you eating? What are certain things that maybe are contributing to some of these feelings that you're having, and just kind of digging deeper with that stuff.
So do people come to you as far as what you do with nutrition specifically for like, weight loss or those types of goals? Or is it more that they're coming to you for mental health type stuff and then you bring the food element into it? Or is it both?
It's mostly mental health.
Okay.
Mostly mental health. That's where they
And do they think it's strange that you ask them?
Some people do at first, but you know, I ask about lifestyle questions all the time. How's your sleep? You know, like what's it's going to impact your mood, right? Or your lifestyle, just your movement. What is that like? How stressful is your job? So it at first, yes, it's like, well, what do you mean? What do I eat for lunch every day?
What percentage of the time would you say that you can see a not complete, like this is all caused by your diet?
Sure.
I'm not saying that at all. But what percentage of the time would you say that you can see a link or something that someone's doing in their nutrition that could help their anxiety or depression?
Almost all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
What are the most common things that you see that people are doing that you're immediate, like it's a red flag to you when you see it?
Sugars. Okay. But not even realizing it.
Right. Like give examples.
Maybe snacking tendencies with like certain types of foods, right? And their blood sugar is all over the place because of that. And it's contributing to low mood
shifts.
Yeah. Very low mood, irritability, worrisome, anxiety, things like that. And they didn't even realize it was what they're fueling their mind with.
How often would you say that you can see people with, so you mentioned, and correct me on any of this stuff if I'm wrong, you mentioned that a lot of the people that you work with are adults or teens with that deal with like a lot of anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
How often would you say that you see people trying to treat their own anxiety or depression with food? Like it's a coping mechanism.
Yeah. That's a very, very, very common.
Right.
Kind of soothing of comfort food.
Comfort foods, yeah.
Yeah. And not feeling the feeling that's really there. They're going to kind of numb it with alcohol or ice cream or whatever their chosen thing is. So we work to uncover that too. All right, what's really going on, right? Let's take a step away from this behavior of eating and what are we feeling? Can we just feel this for a minute?
Yeah. Cause do you find that, people often, what I see when we do our challenges or people are, you know, I just reading things on the Facebook group or whatever, is they're trying to change a behavior without changing why it's happening in the first place.
Yeah.
So it sounds like what you do is you try to figure out the why.
Right.
And then worry about, okay, now you can recognize like this trigger for
this next thing.
Where people usually, they just try to change the behavior without figuring out.
And then they hit something, hit some roadblock or some obstacle and they fall right back into that old pattern or that routine because they haven't figured out the deeper reason.
So how do you go about that? Like if somebody is listening to this and they're like, oh man, I want to figure out what that is for me. Like that's me. I always try to change the behavior, but I've never really spent the time figuring out maybe why I'm doing that. And I think a lot of people, they just are so negative toward themselves, where they'll be like, well, I lack willpower, or I'm just, it's too hard. You know, my lifestyle's too hard for me or whatever. But it's like, well, there might actually be something else that's triggering it. And it's not a willpower thing. It's that when you're have gotten bad sleep. Yeah. Right. Or when you've noticed when your kids are acting up, now you're like snacking on chips or whatever. So is there like a simple exercise that people can do? Because I feel like people are going to listen to this and be like, well, how can I start to recognize that?
I think you've talked about it before. Even just like that figuring out your why exercise can be kind of employed here a little bit if the client or whomever is listening can think about, well, why do I want to change this behavior? Let's say, like, what is this behavior? Why is this negative to me? Why is snacking something that I don't want to do? And even coming at it from like a different angle can sometimes uncover like, oh, well, I didn't want to feel that feeling of irritability or anger at my child or whatever it was. And then, well, why didn't I want to feel that anger? Well, he did that, you know, and it's layer after, it's like unlayering all these different things.
Do you have people log like not only what they ate, but what they were feeling right before and right after?
So typically what I'll have, it's like a whole food mood journal for like 4 days. And it's like, what did you eat? And I don't want the client to like lie to me, like tell me what you ate. Right. Even if it was junk, whatever. Yeah, no. What did you eat? What were you doing while you ate? Were you actually sitting and being mindful of your food, or were you driving in the car? Were you helping your kid with their homework? Any digestive distress? Like, did you suddenly feel bloated? Did you suddenly feel satiated? You were great. And then what was your mood? Were you sad when you were eating that food? Were you happy when you were eating that food? Were you celebrating an event when you were eating that food? So that we can, tie the mood, the behavior all together. Get the whole big picture. And that's very eye-opening for people. Yes. Who aren't mindful of when they ate or what they ate or how they were feeling before or after. People are just like on autopilot.
One of the things that I feel very lucky is because, you know, when I started playing around with my nutrition, I was young, like 19 years old, maybe even earlier than that. And it's never been I shouldn't say never. I was like any other girl in junior high and high school where like literally my friends and I would order pizza, because it was like when fat was like, you do not eat fat, right? So we would order pizza without cheese on it. I'm not kidding. It was just the bread. It was just the bread. And we laugh, but this is actually really sad. It was the bread and the sauce, and we'd get pineapple on it. And we were just so scared of fat. But we would eat like fat-free candy. Like as long as it was fat-free, it was fine. Yeah. Because it was like in the, early 90s and mid 90s where
non-fat.
It was non-fat everything. So, and that's unhealthy. And obviously we were worried about gaining weight and all of that stuff. It's the teenage girl experience, which is not great. But as an adult, I've never really struggled with that so much, because what I learned was how our body works. And one of the things that I picked up on really early is what you're talking about, where it's like, I recognize why. Or so I remember like, before I was with Julian, whatever, I would notice when I was sad or stressed out, I'm like a big chocolate chip cookie, like fresh baked chocolate chip
my language,
cookie person. And I would want to go get one of those. And I eat chocolate chip cookies like once a week now. But it's always just because it's what our family does on Sundays, and we share we go get one massive cookie and we share it. But if I ever notice that I'm wanting one because I'm upset, I refuse to go get it, because just like alcohol, like if you notice you're going to the alcohol because you're upset, that's the reason. I've never allowed myself to cope with how I'm feeling with food or alcohol. I shouldn't say never. I'm sure there were periods with alcohol.
But you're mindful of it.
But now. I know why I'm wanting the cookie. And so it's like, no, that's not this. That's
not going to allow that.
Cookies.
Right.
It's not that we don't eat cookies ever, but we don't eat them for
just
this
because
reason.
We're sad.
Yes. And so I think that's super helpful for people to notice, like, not just what they're eating, but what they were feeling and why they chose what they chose. But some people aren't ready. Do you find that some people aren't ready for that, like, experience?
It's a big undertaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's heavy internal work
with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's therapy.
Right.
You know? So
It's not the Facebook group.
Exactly.
Sometimes
it is
I'm just
hard
like,
work.
oh man, this is so much deeper than we can give you in the comment section right now. But that's really cool. And I think it's so needed.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that we're trying to instill in our kids is that fitness and nutrition, I think so many adults look at it, both of those things, as a punishment. So like the only reason you would ever exercise is because you're overweight. And the only reason that you exercise is so that you don't become overweight or you can lose weight. And that's so like backwards. And I think nutrition and healthy eating is the same thing. The only reason you eat healthy is so that you can lose weight or so that you don't gain weight.
Right.
And so there's already like, this is all a punishment.
Right.
And what would really make me happy is watching Netflix and eating, you know, whatever. But I love what you're saying about your job isn't to help people lose weight. Your job is to help improve their anxiety and depression. And you're linking
and
that
feel better
so often to their food.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be overweight to look at this stuff.
Not at all.
You don't have to have a desire to lose weight, because I think in today's day and age, there's like this undertone of you shouldn't want to change your, like, you know, everybody should love themselves the way they are, which I agree with completely. But oftentimes that gets translated into make no effort to improve
be
your
better
health,
for yourself,
because that means that you're punishing yourself,
or you don't love yourself the way you are.
So I love that there is a huge link to blood sugar and sleep and all of that with just feeling better as a human, regardless of what your body looks like.
Yes, right. It's just feeling better.
Yeah. How did you get into therapy? Like, what drew you to that?
Both my parents are therapists.
Oh, okay.
So
how was that?
I grew up in a home of a lot of feelings and open conversation.
Wow. Do you have siblings?
I have a sister.
Okay. I was going to ask if you, but your boys are in it now with mom, therapist mom.
Yes. I have a daughter, a son and a daughter.
Is
Quinn's a girl.
Okay.
Yeah. So my first name, that's fine. So
my brother's name is Quinn. So I just
really? Okay.
I actually thought about naming, if I had a girl, that was one of my names.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, so Quinn she's 5, and then Nolan, he will be 3. I think they're okay with a therapist mom.
No, it's going to be great. It's probably better.
It's harder. It's different. Even when you're, it's hard to be a mom. It's just hard to be a mom.
Yeah, it's just period.
So, end. Full stop. So still you have your job, and then you have your mom. So yes, I comfortable talking with feelings and helping people open up and learning to be real and honest and genuine. But I have to work real hard at that with my own kids, with my own self.
Right.
Because
it is so much easier to just, when they're having a meltdown, just tell them to go to their room or what, like all of the go-to parenting stuff.
Yeah.
It is easier.
Yeah, I can work with other parents.
Right. The hard choice, that's the best choice, is often the hardest choice with little kids. Yeah. And I'm sure with older and teenagers and all of that, with just people.
Yeah.
The long-term best choice is often the hardest.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Okay. So your parents were therapists.
They were, and they are, they still are.
Okay.
My mom doesn't see clients anymore, but my dad still actively sees clients.
You had a good experience with it, obviously, that you also wanted to do it.
Yeah. I was 5. Everyone's like, oh, 2 therapist parents, but they really are wonderful, and they have their boundaries too.
Okay.
We talked a lot growing up though.
There's a lot of
conversation, a lot of family meetings.
Oh, that's so great.
But we're a very close family. We all get along now. We all live close by. So it was just in the blood. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
And you were very good at it because you had been having these talks since you were a child.
It was comfortable.
You know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
And so how did the nutrition element come into it? What were you doing in your practice where you saw, I want to add the functional nutrition into
I've always been
repertoire
into nutrition and food. Not always. I shouldn't say that. The last 7-8 years, I've always
you've gotten into fitness.
Yes, exactly. Been into it. And I know that there's a link, even just through my own experience.
Yes.
Like when I'm eating poorly or I'm not eating the way I know I feel my best, I feel it. I feel more irritable. I feel kind of low energy or just moody, right? So I know that there's a connection, and I also started to see it in my clients as I got more experience as a therapist. I was like, there's something here. I need to learn about this more so that I can help more people with
what does functional nutrition mean?
So it's through the certification that I have. Okay. So it's a functional nutritional therapist. And so I got more schooling, like a year of schooling, a certification that helps me kind of analyze food mood diaries, understand digestive distress, food sensitivities that people might have, just how your body is responding to the food that you eat. And what's very important is that everyone is their own individual. Like you have your unique needs. This client has their unique. It's not a one size all, like you should be eating this. Right. It's what's working for you. What's your lifestyle like? How old are you? What's your stress load like? What's going on? And working with that person.
Can you share, obviously I know you have laws against sharing names and stories.
Yeah.
Are you able to share like a really cool, like just with a very simple shift of like using the food mood journal, something that you've seen happen that made just a huge difference with something small that the person was able to recognize? I know I'm like putting you on the spot.
No, that's okay. Let me think of something. I mean, I have had one client. It's small. Okay. One client who never ate breakfast.
Okay.
Until much later in her day. And she was not hungry. Right. So there was just I'm just not hungry. Not like because I don't want to gain weight or anything like that.
It's just a weight loss thing.
No, I wake up and I have my coffee and then I go to the office.
We see that
and
a lot.
Yeah. And so I worked with her slowly. I wasn't going to be like, hey, you need to start eating a full breakfast right when you wake up.
Oatmeal and egg
whites. Right, exactly. But we started small where she had like a hard-boiled egg and like half of
and
what was
her was it more like depression, anxiety? Like what was her
anxiety?
Stress? Okay.
It was more anxiety, and it was actually a depression, just a little mix of both, but more anxiety later on in the day, more like that 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock hitting the wall. And what was happening is that she wasn't fueling properly right when she woke up. And then she would have like a decent lunch, but it just wasn't what her mood needed. It wasn't what she needed. And so we started very small. We started also with water. Simple. She needed to drink some more water. But we started, like I said, kind of balancing out a small breakfast. And now I still work with this client regularly, but she can't even believe she never ate breakfast before.
What does she feel like? What has she told you is different for her whole day now?
Like she wakes up and looks forward to a meal. She's not nervous about it. She actually has an appetite for it. If she misses that meal, she feels terrible. Like it just completely beat what she used to feel.
I've always said that like I think that most people in the world don't realize how poor they feel because they've never felt anything different.
It's so true. It's yeah.
Because like if I go off of my lifestyle right now, which is not perfect whatsoever, but it's pretty good, you know, and I've been very consistent for a long time. You know, if I have a few days where I'm not sleeping very well or I'm not getting enough water, or I eat out for a bunch of meals in a row, how I feel is so terrible. And I'm like, is this just what people who live this way all the time feel?
But they don't realize that.
But they don't realize it because it's their normal.
They're normal. It's their
and until
life.
That changes. And I love that you shared that very small change because I think people oftentimes feel like they need to make this drastic overhaul.
Yeah, like you never do this and again, or I have to change everything about
or they
my
would
day.
Never link their anxiety to the fact that they don't eat breakfast.
Right.
And do you find that oftentimes the reasons that people give that they don't work out, that they don't eat healthier are because they're so stressed out, because they have so much going on and they don't realize
that it can be so
they would be less stressed out. Right. And even though, it does take a little bit more time and all of this, but you would actually feel better and be more effective during the day. So you're getting less or more work done in less time because you're not as foggy and all of that stuff. But I think what we see a lot of times, like on our Facebook groups, is like, well, I don't have time for this, or this stresses me out.
They think it has to be more complicated than it is. And that's also kind of what I show with my posts is just,
go back
it can be so simple. Like it doesn't have to.
Yes. It could be the same thing
every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
2 meals a day sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I'll just eat the same thing.
Exactly. The same thing. Oh, I have rice, the same rice. I'm going to have that for both of these meals. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be such this huge variety every day, every week.
And the truth is that even people who eat completely, I try not to use the word terribly or whatever, but even people who eat the opposite of what we eat, or they eat out more for every meal.
Sure.
If you actually look at it, because they've done like studies and stuff that have shown they really only eat like 5 meals.
It's not that.
It is repetitive.
Right. Yeah.
Like when you go to Carl's Jr., you get the same thing every time. And maybe it's every day for lunch, or maybe once
really
a week
your lunches are the same. Right.
So everyone's diet is repetitive.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when people change to, I'm going to cook at home and I'm going to eat healthy.
I'm bored.
They think the boredom thing comes in. They think it needs to be this like over the top recipe every single time. And I don't know why that is. Yeah. Because if you look at what you're eating when you're not doing that, it's very repetitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all have our go-tos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of like the level of healthiness or well-rounded the food is.
Right.
Okay. That's really cool. So you talked about one of the ways that helped you to find consistency was finding your why.
Yeah.
What did you find? What's your why?
So, I mean, my kids, my family.
What was your why before that? Because you were doing CrossFit and everything before that.
Yeah. So to be completely honest, when I got engaged to get married, I wanted to lose weight.
Yeah, I think
for
that's
my wedding.
Normal.
And I did it. I was like, listen, I'm going to lose weight. I want to look great in this wedding gown.
Right.
And I just stuck to it. And I like counted macros and I was working out, but I really just did it for me. And it was all vanity at that point. But then I got to a place where I was like, oh, this feels really good. And I'm not going to go backwards now that the wedding's over. I'm going to just continue living a healthy lifestyle. And I didn't do anything over the top. I was like, I'm just going to change some things. No, I was like, I'm going to work out. I'm going to eat more vegetables and more protein. And my body responded.
So you just enjoyed it. Before kids, you were just like, hey, I feel better with this lifestyle.
Yeah, I feel better.
And then your kids came. Yeah. Explain what the why is. So I think a lot of us that have kids, it's like, it's for my kids. It's, what specifically do you think about when it comes to your family?
I want to be around, and I want to be active and I want to be able to run and play and carry them and up the stairs, or wherever when they're 10 years old, when they're, whatever. And it's exhausting now being a mom to a 5 and an almost 3-year-old. And I feel like I'm pretty healthy and it's hard. So I want to keep that up
all the time.
Like how many times am I squatting to pick up my child or walking him this way or that way? It's like up and down or running around with them. And I'm still out of breath. I couldn't imagine not being physically fit. And
I say that all the time too. I say that like, how are parents who don't exercise doing this?
It's exhausting.
And you can see why like they end up in front of the screen more or whatever, because it's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
You literally have to train for it.
Yes.
It's so worth it though. This morning I had my backpack on and I was like carrying something, and Banner, our 2.5-year-old, he was like, Mama, I want you to carry me. And so I like picked him up and he goes, you're so strong, Mama. And it's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So that's that example.
That's why.
Also.
Yeah. And the example. Yes. They've grown up in our house with the garage. Like I don't even know if they know what a real gym is.
Our kids don't know what a garage is. They've never seen a garage with cars.
Exactly. It's the garage is the gym.
Yeah. They're going to be real confused one day when they have a friend that's like, wait, what?
The garage
or a friend whose parents don't exercise is going to be confusing.
Yeah. It's just part of the day. And so like you asked earlier, are they home when you work out? Like Saturdays and Sundays for sure. They know like, Mommy and Daddy work out at this time or that time. It's just part of the life.
It is. It's so normal to them. And I think that that's so important. If for no other reason, to normalize a healthy lifestyle for your kids. Yeah. Because it just sets them up to not to look at that stuff as punishment. No, it's just a routine. Part of it's, we've beaten this example to death, but it's like brushing your teeth. Yeah. like, you don't have to be excited to brush your teeth.
No.
You don't have to put an immense amount of effort into it every single time. It's just something that you do to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, with fitness, it can be fun. And I love that our kids, I mean, you watched me do my vault workout earlier. They see me like that, like 3-4 times a week. So they see me on purpose, making myself that uncomfortable. And it's so normal to them.
It's like, oh, wow.
To see, and they just come over, they're like, are you okay?
You okay? You're sweaty, Mom.
Yes, they, you know, and I think that that's so powerful to be like, look at my parents, that hard work is normal.
Yeah.
Eating vegetables is normal.
Right.
And it's fun. Like nobody's there making us do it. There's, you know, we do it
we
to
want
ourselves.
to. It's just...
one of the things you mentioned in when I asked you the questions beforehand was this hashtag mom rage.
Oh yeah.
Which I think is good to talk about, especially from someone who you come across because you have all the tools and you grew up with all the tools of like self-regulating,
right.
Recognizing what's really going on and all this, but you still talked about the mom rage, which I think people get embarrassed about. My phone actually right now the screen is completely cracked. And I'm always honest about that kind of stuff because I think it just, again, needs to be like normalized. Yeah. I was at this event this last weekend and someone was like, what happened to your phone? I was like, you want the real story? And I was like, I was breastfeeding and my child bit me so hard that I was either going to throw him or throw my phone because my phone was in my hand. So I was like, I threw my phone, it hit the wall and it cracked. No. But it's like any mom who's been bit would understand. Like 100%.
Yeah.
You know, so what did you mean by that when you talk about the mom rage?
That me time in the garage, especially on a Saturday or Sunday, is so important. Yes. If I work out I would ideally like to work out first thing in the morning. Not first thing, like 9 o'clock. I'm not an early riser at all. Yeah, before the whole day. But if I can't, and I will work out mid-afternoon, let's say when Nolan, my 2.5-year-old's napping, I just get all of that energy out. Yes. It is just all of that fuel, all of that mom stuff can get channeled into, okay, just use that energy, get this workout in, sweat, go hard, feel good, and then go back in the house and I'm just refreshed. I don't know. It's just time for me to,
like, some moms go to a glass of wine.
Yeah, no, I am in the garage.
It is the same feeling.
But it is.
It's a different coping mechanism. It's a healthier coping mechanism.
Yeah, I'm gonna do these wall balls. I'm broken, and I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go. Even sometimes in the morning, if it is the first thing in the workout, and it's like a Saturday, I know I have a big day with the kids, or we're gonna do this, that. Having that 20 minutes of very like an intensity. Yes. That's what that mom rage for me is like. This is my send it workout. This is my intensity. Yes. And then I can parent and be such a better mom.
Absolutely. It is. I mean, we know that it raises endorphins and like all of that stuff. It's like a reset.
Yeah, it's a reset. Yeah.
I can handle this for 6 more
I can
hours
do this again. Exactly.
Or whatever. One of the time, I would say the time that I struggled with it the most and was during pregnancy because your hormones are also crazy. Yeah. My first pregnancy more than the other two, because it was, I was like competing and like a high level athlete and everything before. And then all of a sudden I was pregnant and it was a surprise pregnancy. Yeah. So there was that, it wasn't like this build up to planning for it or anything. Right. And you get to a certain stage even in the first trimester, you're not supposed to go full blackout send it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then as you get later into the pregnancy, you're just so awkward that you can't really send it. Mm-hmm. And I really struggled with not feeling that full effort feeling. Yeah. During that time. Yeah. I had a hard time getting that reset feeling when I was pregnant, and I struggled with that a lot. Yeah. And I would be like really jealous. Did you get jealous of your husband when you were pregnant, of him just like getting stronger?
I was
like
so jealous.
I'm like, oh,
I
struggled so much
after I had the baby.
Yes.
So like those first few weeks when I was just at home with the newborn, and this is before we had our garage gym, he'd go to the gym. Oh, that was the worst. That was really bad. Yeah. But then having the garage for my second baby, even if I would just go in there and just kind of do like farmer carries or just like walk around, it was really nice to have that at home. Yes. But yeah, very jealous.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
would get super jealous of him just like going for it on the workout, and you're just like so uncomfortable and big and awkward, and it's just. But yeah, postpartum's hard too because
Really
you want to get back
hard.
into it.
Yeah,
you
but
wanna,
you know, you can't
because
and
that
you shouldn't.
feeling you're chasing that like.
Mhm.
I mean, I guess it is like a little bit of like a. With the endorphins, it's like a
Yeah,
drug.
it is.
Where once you enjoy that feeling, you really miss it. And I know I struggled with that the most, I would say, during pregnancy, and then postpartum also because your hormones and the sleep is just
oh God,
a
yeah.
whole. But I know you worked out throughout your pregnancies.
Yes. Yeah.
What are your tips for people who want your water broke doing the vault
Yeah.
with baby number 2?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you worked out all the way through. Did you
worked
work out all the way through with
through.
the first one too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some tips that you have for that for people, moms?
It would be the same tips now, like is more than nothing
Right.
is to do something. I always felt better moving,
Yes.
especially when pregnant. Just getting in some movement made my body just feel better, made my mind feel better. You know, you're so uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
but doing something
And you're so
always,
tired.
and you're so tired, but would energize me.
Right.
It really would.
I found the same thing to be true. And I think it's important that the message isn't that you're trying to like, oh, well, I don't want to gain a bunch of weight when I'm pregnant, so I'm going to exercise, or I'm worried about, this or that. I have to maintain my fitness level, or
Right.
that kind of,
No.
it's not that. I found the same
need to
thing.
feel
I
better.
would be so, because I get asked in my DMs probably 5 times a week, how did you work out during the first trimester? I am so tired.
First trimester is rough.
And I would just say, like, I never ever wanted to do it,
Mm-hmm.
but I always had more energy after. And I just like, trust me, just go out there, super
To
tired,
start something.
do something. And sometimes it's 10 minutes on the bike, and
Mhm.
sometimes you get going and you're like, oh, now I feel fine.
Mm-hmm.
But just doing something,
Yeah, it pays off.
which is true anytime.
Yes.
But pregnancy is where I get a lot of questions around
Mhm.
that. And then did you ever have people tell you that you shouldn't be exercising? Did your doctors give you a hard time about it?
No, my
Anything
doctors
like
were
that?
great, which
Okay.
was wonderful. And they knew that I had been doing this type of workouts
Good.
beforehand. And they were like, great, keep it up, keep going for it.
Okay.
And I would have found a new doctor if they said otherwise, probably. But no, I have a really good circle.
And your
Supportive
husband obviously was-
yeah.
yeah.
And that knew, you know what you're doing. I'm not going to do anything stupid, or,
Right.
this is important.
Because
This
you're a
is good.
therapist and you grew up with therapists, so you can
Right.
recognize the
Right.
patterns,
Right.
and the
This is-
behaviors.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's great. And what was I going to ask you? I had another. Oh, because you're a nutritionist.
Yeah.
It changes in your nutrition when you were pregnant and postpartum, because those are questions that we get a lot too.
Not much.
Okay.
I mean, I remember working with Molly a little bit when I was pregnant, but I think the only thing that, I ate a little bit more,
Mhm.
especially when breastfeeding.
Mhm.
But I could probably look back on my Instagram stories, very similar.
Well, let me just scroll back
very
for you.
Similar foods.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there was too much. I had a couple of aversions like to foods.
Okay.
With my second, the first trimester, like protein was pretty gross to me. That was rough.
Did you experience nausea with either one of your pregnancies?
Not too bad. A little bit with my second.
I have a theory about that, but this is not based in any sort of like science. Maybe it is, but not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Because Molly didn't either, really.
Okay.
And I didn't either.
Huh.
And my theory, maybe we can search for a study.
The three of us.
Is that when your food is super consistent and you're eating enough and you're
Yeah.
not like skipping breakfast and things
Yeah.
like that there's not as much nausea. That's my theory.
All
Because
right.
same thing, like my food really didn't change. I didn't increase my calories because I knew my intensity in my workouts was going to go down. So I didn't
Yeah.
really worry about that too much. I will say if I was hungry after a normal meal, I would still eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
But same thing. I had a few aversions with my third
Okay.
that were different than my first two. But in general, I never threw up when I was
neither.
pregnant. And I know, by the way, if you're listening to this and you want to throw your phone because you're
very
like,
sorry.
I'm really consistent,
Sorry.
and I was throwing up the whole time.
It's just our
I couldn't wrong.
experience.
It's just a theory that I have of like, if you can have a really consistent lifestyle beforehand, it might not prevent it, but I think it will help. Because I think a lot of it is tied to like a blood sugar thing. Again, I noticed that when I was hungry, I was more nauseous than when I was eating.
Oh yeah.
For sure. That's why it happens in the morning to so many people, is because you've gone all night without eating. So,
yeah. You wake up.
anyways, I could be wrong. That's just been my theory. Okay, guys, don't take my word for it. But if you can be consistent with your food, it's going to help.
It's definitely going to help. Right.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
She's like, as the nutritionist, being like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Well, that's awesome. Tell us your water breaking story, because I feel like people need to hear that.
Okay. So I was, it was Monday. The vault was just released or whatever. It was that Monday. So
what was the workout?
Oh, so it was Trace. I can't remember the whole workout because I didn't finish the entire workout, but I do it every year on Nolan's birthday. I do it every March.
That's his birthday
It's his birthday workout. But it's burpees, which I did elevated on a box because I was 39 weeks, 4 days. So it was that Monday. So I got through the elevated burpees on the box. And then I think it was thrusters are first. I really should know this. So it was dumbbell thrusters. And I think I got through it was 20. I don't remember, but I got through 8 and I felt like a little, not like a pop, but like, did your water break?
My water broke on my second 2, yes.
Okay. So I felt like a little pop.
It's weird.
Somewhere, yeah. And
it almost feels like the kick.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
But a little bit
gas. I don't know. But so it was number 8. And I was like, okay. So I went to do just 4. And then I went to put the dumbbell, because I was always going to do 12 and then rest a little bit. And then as I put the dumbbells back down on the box, I felt the water. It wasn't gushing, but it was like, oh, that's definitely my water breaking.
Isn't it better that you were at your house and not a gym?
Yes. And it's on film too, because I was recording the workout.
Did you post it?
Workout. Yeah.
Okay. There was a mom that happened to recently.
Yeah.
Like, I want to say like last month. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's very, very cool. So, and then he was born like 4 hours later.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a crazy day. Crazy day.
Did you log it?
Yeah, of course I did. Of course I did. Yeah. Yep.
And you have finished the vault all 4 years, or this will be your 4th. Is this our 4th year? This is our 4th year. 19.
Yeah. So 2020, I didn't finish it. Obviously, the first go around because I had the baby.
It still counts if you finish it in the second half.
Yes, and then I made up those ones that I missed early postpartum. But then 2021 and 2022, I finished 25. And then here we are.
Here we are. Yeah. And you get to do a super fun one, which we can't talk about right now, but it'll be super fun.
It'll be fun.
So the last thing that I want to ask you is, you told us that the 2 most important parts of the street parking message are just that consistency is key.
Yes.
And fitness freedom, which all of it really ties together. But when you answered that, what do those 2 things mean to you, or how do you see them help the people that you work with and that sort of thing?
So the consistency is key. You think about all the time. I mean, for all aspects of life, right? It's, you can do it consistently more days than not, make the better choice. It pays off. Mm-hmm. It's so important. It will progress you towards whatever goal you have in mind, consistently doing the thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be 100%.
And I think people need to hear that, like, consistency doesn't mean consistently perfect.
No.
It's just
consistently doing something.
Doing your best.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the fitness freedom, which is newer for free, but I love that because there are not so many times, but I love the programming that you can go into the garage, right? This is the workout. This is what it is. This is the purpose of the workout. But you know what? I'm not feeling the barbell today. I want to try it with like a sandbag deadlift or, really listening to your body, listening to your mind. Because sometimes mentally I'm not there to full send, right? Or I'm not, or maybe I want to, and knowing what's right for you in that time. It doesn't mean you're taking the easy way out. It doesn't mean that you're just not going to do the workout because you can't do it the way it's there. It's no, what's good for me? What's good for my body and for my mind today to get something in? It's just, that's what it's about. It's about just getting a sweat.
And, I'm sure that one of your goals with the people that you work with is building confidence.
Yeah.
And
listening to your gut.
Yeah. And not feeling like you need to be told exactly what to do or you're doing it wrong. Where I think the fitness freedom, the reason why that we it is newer, but why it's become, one of our pillars is fitness freedom allows for consistency. Because if it's like, you have to do the workout this way, you have to eat the meal exactly the way that it is.
Way.
Because nutrition's the same thing. It's like nutrition freedom. It's like, sure, Silver's meal that she posted had rice and chicken thighs, but like, oh, are you out of rice? You can still just throw some sweet potatoes in there, throw a piece of toast in there.
Right.
Make it work with what you have, the time that you have, all of that, where I think so much of the fitness industry is you have to follow the program perfectly. And you have to follow the diet perfectly. You're not learning anything. You're just following instructions. So you're not confident once it's over to be like, no, I got this.
I can do this. I could do this anywhere.
Right.
Right.
And I can figure it out with what I've got going on, because our lives all have seasons and stages and weird things and pandemics that happen.
Yeah, right.
So part of our goal is not just to tell you what to do, but to help you
make some decisions,
build some confidence and think, I can do this. I'm not going to mess it up as long as I'm, working with what I got. So, well, I'm super excited to have you here again. Snack, squat, smile, right?
Yeah.
If you want to see all of the food all of the time. But I think it's a great example of consistency, but also simplicity. And so now I've forced her to keep it up for at least 6 more months or so, because now a bunch of people are going to be expecting it.
Yep.
And you guys will see what her workout is coming up here pretty soon. I programmed this one. And it's super fun, I guess. I mean, it's gonna be brutal, but it'll be fun. You're doing it with Coach DH.
Yeah,
so I'm
that'll be fun.
to watch it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.